In Maryland, did you
That's
watch that
crazy.
thing go down?
Yeah, I did. Well, and I also understand more because I couldn't figure out
How
that
it
ship was
happened?
just going right at it
Right.
until I heard a report this afternoon that he didn't have any control of his ship.
Right, he lost power.
He lost power. Yeah.
Yeah,
that
and they
is-
couldn't get a tugboat out there, probably fast, or fleet of tugboats.
Right.
Okay, it's 5:30, so where'd Nathan go? There he is. We'll wait till he gets back.
Either way, they prefer both to where it's current.
Yeah.
But they prefer.
Okay, it's 5:30, so please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Liz, you doing the roll call of the commissioners?
Commissioner Butler.
Here.
Commissioner Duran.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Luper.
Here.
Commissioner Tucker.
Here.
Chairperson Nichols.
Here. All right, I'd like to call the
Chief, I got-
Craig,
Andrea.
Andrea's
Andrea.
here too.
oh,
Sorry.
I'm
Here.
usually last, sorry.
Ted.
Here.
Andrew, how could I ever forget you? Sorry, no,
Me too.
yeah. Anyway, I'd like to call the March 26th Craig Housing Authority meeting to order. So the agenda, I'd like to take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
So Commissioner Looper, motion to approve, second by Commissioner Butler. Second. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, agenda is approved for March 26th. Approval of the minutes from January 9th, 2024, Craig Housing Authority meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve minutes as presented.
Second.
Commissioner Duran made a motion to approve the minutes from January 9th, and Commissioner Looper seconded the motion. Any discussion on approval of the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. The approval of the minutes passes. Let the minutes reflect that Commissioner Jackson has joined the meeting. Thank you, sir. I'll let you get situated, then we will take up item C on the agenda. You good? Good. Okay, item C, selection and approval of a bid from Ibra Tip Fencing in the amount of $68,071.68 for fencing for the 8th Street redevelopment project. This Peter or Shannon?
No, I got it.
You got it?
Yep. Thank you, Chairman Nichols. Good evening, Commissioners. We had a bid go out for the backyard fencing. My wife's calling. Anyway, for the backyard fencing, we had two responders, Ivory Tip Fencing and Strategic Fence and Wall Company out of Breckenridge. They both met the specifications. Actually, the Ivory Tip Fencing proposal looked like a little better fencing structure with uprights I believe every 6 feet instead of 8 feet, which is somewhat of an improvement. It'll basically be the same fencing type that you see out here on the corner through the curve from Victory Way to 4th Street that we put up a few years ago. And so each backyard will have a single gate that'll take them back to the carport, and of course share the fence lines between the units within the fiveplex. Total cost, including bonding and shipping of the materials, is $68,071. 68, and our budget for that project that we had slated was $80,000 in the budget for the project. So we're looking for approval of the contractor selection for Ivory Tip.
Okay. Questions for Peter? Finally, something under budget, so, yeah.
Yeah, associated with housing.
Once the fence is installed, is it the property owner's responsibility through the HOA
Yeah.
to maintain?
Not the HOA, it is the property
It is
owner's
it's part of the
responsibility.
property. Okay.
Yeah, it's not part of the common area.
Perfect.
Yep.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will take a motion on item C.
Make a motion to approve the bid from Ivory Tip Fencing in the amount of $68,071 and some change. And,
Second?
Okay, Commissioner Jackson made a motion to approve the bid from Ivory Tip Fencing, second by Councilman, or Commissioner Camp. Any discussion on item C, or the motion? Not item C, the motion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. So, kind of planned this meeting, item D, Commissioner discussion. Kind of planned this meeting with a little time left to give direction to city staff on the Woodbury project. Now, it's our, as the Craig Housing Authority, it is our job to make recommendations to the city council on how to proceed, as obviously city council represents the city and would vote to approve whatever zone change or whatever we plan to do moving forward. So I would open up the floor. I think you all have received in the city manager's report 3 recommendations. I would start out by saying what would be our recommendation. Heather, do we need to vote on these, or are we just giving staff direction?
Just, I think, a consensus is as much as you can do.
Okay, so we're going to perform a consensus, no formal vote. Do we move on from Woodbury, east side of Woodbury Drive and First Street, the original site?
and what are
I
other
think we should
sites?
move on. I think we should change sites at the minimum, yeah.
I think we can move on if we can do it in under a year. If it's gonna take us over a year to do any of these, I'm against moving on.
Well, you read Peter's notes on there that if we move to another site, then we have to do environmental studies, we have to do NEPA studies. So for council's sake, Peter, will you describe a NEPA study and what?
Well, it's a federal study that's conducted by an engineering company that we'll hire to do the study, but they have to negotiate with the state historical preservation officer, and they both have to agree on the outcome of the study. It covers things like habitat issues, but it also especially focuses on historical structures that might be at the site. We had to do one of these for the water plant just to set up a generator through the EPA grant. It's taken us over a year just to get that study completed. Now, I talked to the person that conducted our NEPA study for the current housing site, and that took us over a year, and we're hopefully just about finished with that because SHPA and the feds didn't agree on some of the determinations that were done on the study. But in talking with Ayers and Associates this morning, they felt like if it's kind of a contiguous site, they could get the NEPA completed in 8 to 12 weeks. So that's a substantial improvement over what we've seen. Now, if we move it to a completely different site, no guarantees.
Have we, Peter, I don't know, or Shannon, have we had conversations with DOLA
About
about
the grant.
the grant, or I assume we're probably not the only ones that has maybe changed a project partway through. I'm sure there's not a high percentage, but I'm sure we're not the only example. And so
Yeah, Derek,
it seems like there obviously with all these grants, there's restrictions. And we just learned of this other study, but
I
have we
think-
started that conversation knowing the turmoil that
no,
the community's
I
been in?
didn't think we wanted to broach that just yet, but I think just like with the HUD grant, which is what we're talking about on the NEPA study, I think if we have a site that's almost contiguous with the current site in some ways, I think DOLA will play ball with us in terms of transferring that site to a new location. That's our objective is, we have $2.4 million in grants between HUD, which matches the More Housing Now grant. And our objective is to get both of those grants transferred to the new site.
Peter, contiguous meaning like only the industrial site that's right to the west, or
No, that would
any
be-
site within that area?
Yeah, I'm talking about the two sites that are actually like directly adjacent to the current site. Yeah.
What were the other sites? I never got with your email. Did you send that yesterday?
Oh, you didn't see,
I saw your email, but I don't have any attachments with it that were newly proposed, I guess.
thank you.
It's the,
Just that one, okay. Oh, and that one?
Very familiar, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 5 and a 1. And then this is 5.
Does this come off the purchase?
Of course, with the west site, that's going to require developer acquisition of that site.
And do we have an idea what the cost or what the asking price for that property is?
No, I just reached out to see if he would even be willing to consider selling. So, no other conversation has happened.
Okay. We don't, and he is considering it.
Yeah, he would be willing to sell.
Well, after you suggested that, I actually drove that property, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It concerned me that there would be 8 properties adjacent to the development, and in my opinion, we would get pushback on a 3-story building looking in their backyard. And that's my concern with that property, if we look at it. And then it doesn't really solve the traffic concerns, because there still would be Woodbury to Walmart, or even Dolian to Walmart. Whereas if we go to the east side, we already own the property. We won't use it all. We can build parking there, potentially. We have First Street and Mack Lane as traffic routes, to wherever people want to go. If they do work in Steamboat, they can go First Street all the way to Highway 40. If they work at the hospital, they can go First Street to 13 and go to work there. I think, and I think we did identify, we do need to make some changes on Woodbury Drive and Third Street. And Peter, you discussed that with the police chief and Road and Bridge?
I have. I've talked to those guys. They're looking into it. I know Andrea's talked about that. Chris, you've also recommended that four-way stop. That makes a lot of sense right there, especially when they're having sporting events and trying to slow traffic down on Third Street. So,
What about our storm drain infrastructure? I've talked to, we're all learning new stuff as we go, and these
Right.
agreements that were supposedly put in hand 40 years ago. If we keep it on Woodbury site, how do we handle the storm drainage issue? Are we have to go in with new infrastructure and redesign that?
that's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
Mr. Mack is concerned at the last meeting.
And I even talked to Heather a little bit. I don't think there's a written agreement on what Mr. Mack was saying. However,
No, but, yeah, we'd have to manage that better than we have been.
and so
We'd have sampling on that side. We'd probably have to
Just
clean that
coming up
ditch
there.
out. What's that?
I said, just things keep coming up that makes me leery of all of Woodbury at the moment.
Well, and that,
And I'll be the first to admit, I was in the wrong because I liked that site, the original site, 2 years ago. I was on the committee. I was on the steering committee. Okay? But after listening to the community, thinking about it, realizing the impact of traffic and outdoor or open recreation and stuff, I just think that's not the site, and I think we are in a community that there is open real estate. I think we can find a better option that will justify the need for housing and listen to the community. And I know they're Woodbury residents, but it's open space. And then the storm drainage is a concern also, because talking to Shane, I said, how do we handle that if that is a problem down the road? That's a whole new storm drain system potentially. I don't know.
Well, that current storm drains a good part of the city right there.
Oh. But would we have to drain it to the wastewater plant?
Well,
Not the-
I don't, you see us, I don't see us changing,
You know?
I don't see us changing direction. I think we clean the ditch. I think we sample routinely like, we used to do apparently. And we just, if we have to send people out, semi-routinely to clean up bottles or anything that gets washed down there at Billy Mack's place, and we do that. That's what they used to do.
And I don't think it was ever an issue until all this got brought up. You know
And
what I'm saying?
this site compared to the area that it's actually draining today is not small, but it's,
I know. There's a lot of water. We
Yeah.
we cut into that pipe last year when we were at Woodbury, and they pumped it for a full week.
well, I think part of the problem, at least from what I'm hearing, is that the sediment has carried into that daylighted area, and it's backing up into the pipe now. And as soon as we clean that ditch out, it's gonna start washing that sediment down, and we'll probably have to clean it a couple of times.
We're gonna have to do that no matter what, correct?
Exactly. We have drainage,
Property to the west, I think we're gonna have the same argument, and I can even argue the open space on that one. And I would be surprised if,
To the west or
or,
east?
sorry, to the east.
Okay.
And then I'm surprised to hear that you've heard that people are maybe okay with the property to
Yeah,
the,
because the people I've
yeah, I
talked,
find
go
it
ahead.
hard to
I
believe.
think that's worse than.
The people that I've talked to have been, as far as the Woodbury residents, it's better because it gives them a little separation, but it's worse because you're still losing park. However, it gives the opportunity to get more parking space, so they're kind of,
Caught in the middle.
if it had to be somewhere, we'd rather it be in the spot that it can get the parking and separate a little bit, but they'd prefer it not to be in the park at all, so.
Right. And that's the response I've gotten, is anybody I've talked to, most of them have been positive first of all, most of the people I've talked to have been positive with the original site, other than Woodbury people. The Woodbury people I've talked to, when I've talked about the site to the west, taking the football field area of the site to the east, or even going all the way down to Rainy Road at our possible business industrial park, they don't want it anywhere near them, period. And so if we do anything in that area at all, they're not gonna be happy.
I heard a lot better responses to that industrial lot to the west, surprisingly.
West or to the east?
To west. That,
Oh, the industrial.
yes,
what
the second option
Borders
in
the
the,
9 houses.
But it's got, not, yeah, I was gonna say, it's a lot of houses who you're
Yeah.
overlooking. I cannot believe that they would be any happier. Don't know.
This was,
but-
this was offline over at
Yeah.
the Woodbury Housing thing, but they did seem a lot more, they were more willing to work with that site than the site that loses the park space.
Peter and Shannon, that Carpenter parcel was identified as a high priority. It was like, I think it ranked number 3. What's the background on that?
I don't have the study in front of me, Derek, but I think the biggest deterrent on that is that it's not city-owned, so it'd be something the developer would have to purchase. I'd have to look at infrastructure connections and things like that, but
I'm sorry, where is that, here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the lot that backs up against the Boyko.
So we're still gonna have the drainage issue there.
Right.
Because how much of the city drains there? You said a third of the city?
Oh, I'd have to, we'd have to actually calculate that to be accurate, but it's a substantial.
Well, I know the courthouse and McDonald's all drains to Mac Lane, and then retention pond right by the fire training facility, all of that drains that way. So I assume that you're still gonna run into that concern if, so.
Well,
I don't know.
I think if Mr. Mack is okay with us starting the testing and monitoring
Yeah, we
again, if
used
that's
to.
what we need to do, then, yeah, I think we can put it anywhere, and that's not a concern. I just,
Well, Derek, I spoke with Randy Call, in fact,
yeah.
2 days ago about that. No, yesterday morning. And he felt like those are the things that we used to do that we need to reinstitute.
Right.
And-
And so, yeah, and I don't, like you said, I don't know if it was a verbal agreement or what it was, but
Yeah, maybe we need to have something, we could put something in writing, make sure that doesn't lapse again.
Right, that's what I'm wondering, is because if you don't have it in writing anywhere 20 years from now, no one will remember it's supposed to have happened.
What do you do with traditional runoff?
Well, we'll have to look at, Marlon, you might have to address that, but I think we're gonna have to look at that for retention.
Isn't that the president's or whatever, the traditional runoff? And so I don't know what period of time, but all new development you can't change the traditional runoff, or you provide retention or
agreed.
something.
I think it was just brought to our attention that we
Haven't been,
retained, it was all retained on.
we haven't
private
lived up
property.
to a standard that none of us knew about, other than Randy Call. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because the west end of town, have you seen that last year? Came clear out from Northwest Storage all the
Yeah.
way into town and ran across a good portion of Billy Mack's property just to get to the river. There's where else do you go with it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Gravity dictates a lot, no matter your agreements or anything else. So, I mean, but it has to be done properly, and obviously detention and stuff keeps it, corrects, speed and everything else, so that it's not causing problems for other property owners, for sure.
I don't think water's the problem with this whole project, though. I think what we did is we picked the best piece of property that was simply city-owned, not the best piece of property for the community. And I think we can just keep talking about, like this, the chunk that we bought to the east was simply bought for recreation. We're gonna be, and we're short-sighted if we use that site for anything but recreation. That's the best place for anything in town. And then the one to the west, I mean, that's simply a conversation with a private owner, but I think we just need to reevaluate where we're putting this thing and look at all the sites in town that we can make work. I mean, this Woodbury site, I don't even know if we should have looked at it based on it being open space. And I know that, and it's park area, it caused too many problems.
Well, the east side is still light industrial.
Well,
It's
I'm
not
aware,
built.
but that wasn't the intention of when we bought that when the city bought that property, it was not bought to put up apartments on.
we were anticipating replacement of we anticipated putting a housing project on that other piece of ground, and
Right.
we're kind of
Yeah.
replacing that with the
But you
city.
guys, I mean, you did the right thing buying it for recreation. It's plain and simple. That was a good choice. But
Yeah.
going back on that that's not a good idea now. I mean, I don't mind the idea of the project itself. I hope that I'm concerned that we're building a project, like how many houses are they gonna keep for Craig workers? You know, like I'm worried that we're gonna fill it up with 90% Steamboat workers, 10% Craig. Like our solution to our housing, you guys did it at the hospital site, would have been perfect for, I mean, that would have solved probably all the hospital's problems, those units, and the teaching units, except for they've got these stipulations attached to them. Like if somebody could have came and bought the 5 units and rented them out, that was a solution. This is grasping, I believe. I think we messed up on that hospital property where we could have sold it. Like the hospital could have bought 5 units, and now that's not even an option. Like, I'm just worried that we're just continuing down a bad path with this grant money that locks us into these AMI percentages that I'm just concerned that all the people living in this housing project are gonna be 90% Steamboat employees, so we're solving Steamboat's problem. And those are my concerns. So-
Okay. Good points, Luke. And this, okay, we have to do something in this community, okay? And we can't wait until we have a glutton of houses. People are exiting the community because, that's my brother. But, you know, just to be able to provide basic services, if we do lose 200 houses in this community, we're still going to make water for the rest of the residents. We're still going to have to operate a police force. We're still going to take care of what parks we have. Who do you think's going to pay for that? Okay?
Well, not-
So
not
that
the property
comes.
tax on this building.
Yeah, so that comes from increasing people moving to the community. City gets very little of our general fund revenue from sales, from property tax. We get 10.5 million, I think, last year from sales tax. So I don't care if these people work in Steamboat. They're still gonna buy groceries, they're still gonna buy gas, they're still gonna go to local restaurants. They're gonna buy beer, probably, some of them, you know? So this community has to grow. I mean, either that or we die.
Well, the thing is people are going to be moving out of some of the existing apartments we
Right.
have, moving into something that's maybe a little nicer. And then hopefully we spur these other apartment buildings to fix their places up. And I work in Steamboat right now, so I drive every day. I mean, that's what's gonna happen. When we close down and everyone moves out, like, who's gonna start buying this property up here? Most likely Steamboat people, and then it's gonna happen anyways, and we're gonna be too late.
Well, those are
Like,
private
it's
dollars.
time to, yeah, and I understand that,
And-
but this is kinda private with just a little bit of grants. We're only
Well-
helping it.
That's
2.4 million in grant funds where the developer's gonna spend 25 million plus.
I'm aware of that. I mean,
You know, so people are saying this is government housing.
but reading Peter's report today,
Yeah.
I mean, what I saw is one thing, so out west, there's an issue with the sewer line or whatever. Like, those are the things that the city needs to be taking care of as infrastructure in that way in order to encourage future development. Like, we're stepping outside of our, I don't know. I don't know if we should be in the development business. That's just,
I don't see it as being a development business, as
Well-
being encouraging. Because
Right.
we've been doing this for 5, 6 years and haven't had any developer who can price out a project that would work without us doing things for it. You're talking about the 5 units for the hospital.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with Jennifer a week ago. She had 8 or 9 employees over the last year. That's 8 or 9.
Okay.
That didn't take a job. I talked to the school district going back 5, 6 years, where on average, between 20 and 30 people accept a job and then take it away because there is no acceptable place for them to rent. If you have, say you're in your 20s and you're coming back to Craig, one, there's no place to live. 2, if there is, you really want to live in one of those places versus something that's halfway decent? And my biggest concern, if we can do it in the next year and change and go to a different spot within a year, year and a half, I'm more open to that. If it's longer than that, you're not gonna have a project developed till 2029.
Well,
By
I'm
then,
de-
it's too late.
I'm definitely more open to the project, definitely in a different spot.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm just expressing my
Right,
concerns.
yeah, I
and-
understand.
And one of the concerns was last Tuesday at the meeting when Chris, you made a comment about if we wait till 2028, it's too late. And half of the audience thought that was a good idea.
Thought it was a
And
great idea.
that is not, so that's not a good idea. Like, I think this, the past council and this council, we have a vision. We know what's coming down the pipeline. We're trying to do what we can to fix the solution. Now, it seems like we learn more and more that the 1.9 million or whatever that amount is just restricting us more and more.
2.4.
It's like we can move it, then we can't move it, we can use it for this, we can't use it for this. And I don't have an issue looking at a different property, knowing that, we're looking at purchasing property for a business park. To me, what's the difference of purchasing a piece of land for housing? We've heard we need housing. I've been a supporter of housing since I got back on council. Majority of the audience says we need housing. They understand what's going on. So why aren't we going around looking at properties that are for sale when we're doing that for a business park?
Well,
Yeah.
isn't that what the housing assessment study did, though? I mean, they
Right.
looked at the potential properties and
It
the
did, but like
best.
the Carpenter, I think we just looked at it. I don't know
Right.
if there was ever
Well, I'm saying anything that's on this
Yeah.
map that was part of that study, I think is acceptable. But then now all of a sudden, it's like
Right.
people are coming in, well, what about this over here? Well,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of other restrictions as far as location and amenities and, the bus stop is a bonus and having the utilities nearby. So I mean, I'm not opposed to looking at any other location, but I think we absolutely have to consider the information that was in a housing assessment study that was done for that very purpose.
Right,
So,
but I don't know, does the housing assessment study meet all the restriction requirements for these grants that we're going through? You know what I'm saying? We have an assessment study, but then we're applying for these grants that they're the ones that are saying that it has to be by this many amenities. It's saying we have to have this transportation.
There-
Housing assessment study is saying that we need housing.
Isn't that just
Yeah.
what?
It's the grants that are saying you gotta be,
It's.
this, you
Well,
gotta be this, you gotta have.
The needs assessment basically shows that the grant can fulfill what it's asking for. So when the needs assessment says Woodbury's the number one site because of its proximity to amenities and infrastructure and, it's city-owned, we have to have that in place before we can even go after a grant. That's the first thing they ask for is the needs assessment. So when that data backs up what they're asking, that's when it, moves forward. I don't think the grant is as restrictive as we're thinking, again, this is a conversation we'll have to have with DOLA, like, can this be transferred to another site? But that's what puts us in contention and gives us the award because the data backs up the site for the money that we're trying to go for, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and I just, we're a small rural community, so it's like every lot can be justified.
And we've made that argument too. We've done that too.
What,
Like,
you
we're
know,
to buy a building and tear it down to build housing. There's-
you're also taking out for the residents of these apartments. Another thing was access to amenities, to the park. This like the residents like it because it's proximal to them. It's going to be proximal to these people. They can walk to Walmart. The new growth in the new communities are pedestrian friendly. They can walk. They can ride buses. They don't always all need cars to drive everywhere. Okay? That's why the transit center is part of this process. That's why the proximity to groceries, to, medical, rapid care, that there is amenities there. That's why this turned out to be a good site. Now, the Carpenter property still could be a good site. So we can have we got a meeting in 27 minutes. So I labeled the properties. Number 1 is the original site. Number 2 is to the east. Number 3 is to the west. Number 4 is Carpenter's. To explore.
Are we considering using any of the industrial park we bought off of Rainey at all? Are we not?
Is this work or not, Shannon?
I mean, that's gonna be a real tough one, I think, to try to sway.
Which one?
Are you talking about the 25-acre industrial park or the other one?
The
The
25?
25-acre one, taking a piece or parts of that, is that something to consider or not,
I mean, we've discussed it. I think there's other sites that are better,
right?
so I
And
would,
that's even further yet.
That's either farther, I was just wondering, because it's farther away.
What about the one further down by MJK that was, I think it was in this,
JK?
or by the vet clinic there?
That cul-de-sac that's,
Yeah.
was that part of your,
no,
Is it never-
I would say for probably if we're trying to secure grant funding, that'd be too far away from amenities, but that's just my initial impression.
Down by that's, okay.
Yeah. They need it like, their definition is like within a block of
Of a
like,
park.
of, like amenities, like shopping, restaurants, banks, all that good
Bus
stuff.
stop would be-
car.
Bus stop would be harder at that location, whether we
yeah.
had grants or not, just, I mean, the fact that it'd be good. to have a bus.
So-
Going off of how Chris ranked them, my thought, just me, would be Carpenter, investigate Carpenter, and then would be going to the west of the original site. I don't think
Agreed.
we have any, if I'm gonna sit here and argue open space, then I can't sit here and argue the stuff to the east.
Okay, Nathan, what are you?
I'm agreed with Derek on that one.
So you want
Carpenter.
Carpenter number 1 and then West number 2?
Yep.
Jesse?
I mean, I don't mind the Carpenter. I don't mind Woodbury. And this one
Or
over here,
three.
I wouldn't mind that one either.
Which one? I'm sorry.
Carpenter is probably a good location for our Woodbury residents. I don't mind the Woodbury location.
What, number 1?
Yep.
The original.
Okay,
Yeah, I just think it's in a good spot. It puts everybody, it's by people, like, not all apartments are bad, and that's what people are saying by discouraging this, putting stop signs to slow the traffic, to push people other ways. I just think there's ways we can go about it, and it's an apartment building. I want to keep it nice. I'm afraid of our park going to crap because we have no money in 10 years. So I would like to do something to try to encourage.
okay. Luke?
Carpenter and then the west site.
Carpenter and 2, right? Or 3? 3. Andrew?
West would be 2.
Huh?
West would be 2.
2 is the east,
Is the east side.
yeah.
Who's the east?
3 is west side. Who owns that property?
Larry Elgin?
Larry Elgin.
Elton.
currently owns that, yep.
My bad. Yeah.
So I have you down for west, Nathan.
Okay, yeah, no, it's the industrial lot, the,
That's-
3, I guess.
3, yeah, the west.
I would agree,
Yeah.
Carpenter and then the industrial lot to the west. I think if we try to build on that lot to the east of the park, we're gonna have the same issues and argument from
Yeah,
those
just trying to
residents, so,
solve that.
yeah.
I'm still thinking Woodbury is 1, and Carpenter would be 2.
I mean,
The original lot.
okay,
And I mean, Carpenter probably about the same as Woodbury, it's just everything's all done for the Woodbury. Because if we go to the west, we're gonna have, it's not gonna solve any of the issues we're currently fighting, other than the open space question.
Correct.
well, I will go down to, I'm back to lot number 1. You know, from the standpoint, I told the people I've talked to, if you want more park space, then you need to vote for a rec district in this community, because the city cannot continue to maintain what we have, especially with declining revenues. So if you want 10 acres of parks added, then you need to do the same kind of community outreach and pass a rec district. What comes with that and everything else, you know, before we say we're going to develop, we talked about developing this lot. We have 150,000 to do design and feasibility studies. That's it. Okay? We need about, what was it, 3.5 million, $4 million to build this out, I think was the estimate from Ayers. Okay? We don't have any of that money still. So this is a pie in the sky. So, but we will replace that park space with the east and, Mac Lane and First Street. We've made that commitment, so I'm still going with the original lot and then Carpenter as possibly a second choice. So,
And just out of curiosity, because I think Randy Call mentioned that at our meeting as well, is there any research or anything regarding the land from the Walters family when that was all given to the park as open space? I mean, I was just curious to see if there was actually any documentation along those lines somewhere way back when. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at that.
I
but-
couldn't find anything. I dug through everything that was in City Hall, and all our engineering files, everything in the vault, any agreements, and I can't say there's not. I can't find anything. Typically, it's either on the deed or on the plat. Of course, we had Heather look over both of those, and there's no restrictions on those. I agree, there's a good chance that's what it was, you know what I mean? But I haven't been able to find anything that documents that in any way.
it's not deed restricted, is what you can find.
Right. A lot of times they will, like if somebody was to build a 300-unit complex right now, they'd either have to do cash in lieu of, or they'd have to actually build out a park somewhere off-site. Usually within a quarter mile, it says in our land use code. That's why Woodbury was also a little bit good for our land use code. There's already a park, you know what I mean? They can improve upon it, or they can give cash in lieu of, or something like that. But the park itself's already built out. And so, nowadays it would be documented to where this land would be dedicated for that. And we do have some subdivisions if that's the case up in Glen area and stuff, you know, where there's some of that open space that people probably wonder what that's for, and it's had to be dedicated as that open space when the development was put in. But I can't find anything on the Woodbury one. Not saying it doesn't exist, but I couldn't find anything.
So, way it's a consensus here, the Carpenter was the first priority. So, I'm not sure what that does to, the actual time frame on this if we, move forward, but that would be the Housing Authority's recommendation to City Council, which is basically us anyway, so.
Can I ask
Sure.
what is the count in terms of that?
I have 6 to actually the original site of 4. Trying to add first choice.
Six in
and second
favor
choice.
of Carpenter.
Yeah,
I think he means how many people are in favor, right? Not. No, go ahead.
so number 1,
I think
Carpenter,
you have 3 in favor of the original.
yeah. And
Or
it would
wanting to
do,
move on.
so
So
it's 4 to 3, basically.
what are you asking us to do here with the Carpenter site?
We're saying that council or the Housing Authority would not recommend the council to rezone the original Woodbury site. Correct? As
Yeah, and the only
consensus?
reason I brought Carpenter site up because it ranked the second highest on the list. So
So-
if number 1's not a go, then I think we can follow the list and go to number 2. That's why I brought that property up.
1 is the current site, 2 is the Carpenter site.
According to this.
2's the hospital site and 3's the Carpenter
Yeah,
site.
so
Right.
hospital
Next
site.
one after the
Basically,
hospital.
next one down.
Carpenter is next in line, according to the study that we did.
Right. So as far as it's number 1 based on, it's 4 to 3 to go to the Carpenter
How many
site.
acres is that site?
5 acres.
And that's up against rail, between rail and,
I don't think it goes all the way to rail. It stops.
well, Third Street. There's a Third Street easement across the top of there.
There's a rail spur, and then there's one single residential house, and then that property.
And then that property.
Right.
Then it's got park on the other 2 sides. I did see that it's owned by the same group since, I think, 1998.
And is that site for sale?
I don't think it's currently for sale. I mean, it's not listed for sale.
Okay, well, I think that's that's the first hurdle.
Right.
I know, but the property to the west, I don't think was for sale either.
But Andrew did
You know, we
confront,
just,
did talk to
was it
him.
for sale, or did we
No,
approach
it's not
them?
currently for sale either.
I don't know why.
What about the property to the east that we bought? Was that originally for sale, or did we approach them as well?
We approached that
So-
owner on that property.
I think we can approach or try.
I'm surprised you did not get more pushback on the 9 houses behind it there that would look in their backyard on the west property, but I don't know. We haven't talked about it yet. Okay?
Is that a site, if it is for sale, that we want the developer to purchase? Is that the consensus?
Well, we don't own the property, so, can you use some of that CDS grant or
No.
no?
What is it, and you've talked to DeGruz a lot more, and I know we're running out of time, but currently we're bringing land and $2.4 million on a potential $25 million project, what comes out to be 8%. That 8%,
Well, we'd hope to bring those same grants to whatever project, whatever site we go to.
right, but we're sitting here kind of going back and forth saying that we're a big part of this project, and it's only 8%.
But to make or break at this point,
Yeah,
too.
that's,
You know?
that's, the question is what makes or breaks it for DeGruz? 'Cause
Well,
Like
yeah,
if I
For
was a
the developer.
I don't know, I'm just saying that's,
I'm just trying to get a direction here so we know what you expect from us on this site. Are we going out and asking the developer to purchase this site?
Yes.
Or are we just trying to determine if it's for sale and then make that decision at that point?
Let's make sure it's for sale
Yeah.
and make that decision after that point. Okay?
And I think get a, like, understanding of what they feel. If we need to try to come up with something, then
Of course, we're going to have to determine all the connections and everything else before we go down that road.
Correct.
spending money.
I'd look at it just kind of being proactive, because I think if it were to go to vote tonight, I don't know if I think we would be in the same boat.
Well, it's not on the agenda,
I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like,
so we cannot take a vote on it, so.
Right.
We, as a housing authority, this is our recommendation,
Yeah.
consensus.
What staff needs is when we leave here, we know what our marching orders are and what you expect from us in terms of basic direction. I mean, we don't have any actions here. We're just trying to figure out how we go about this without losing this development completely.
Peter, so I would say your direction would be, number one, find if the property is available, how much? And if the utilities are there, realistic, utility-wise are available, and then come back to us and I guess and then talk to the developer and see what their feelings are.
on both properties.
both properties.
Right.
Or any property that the developer thinks is okay? I mean, not just us, or, I mean, the
Well, I think you've
developer,
already, yeah.
The developer, I think.
the
will go
developer
off
would probably
whatever-
have good ideas on what they're looking
Yeah.
for, correct?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think if we just go and find out if those, land is for sale, and then present that to the developer and say, hey, look, this is for you guys to decide if you wanna purchase one of these properties and move forward from there. Take it
It's
out
not
of grants in a
budgeted
way.
for the city to purchase anything for, so we're a year out, so. Are you clear, or you need better?
Good as it's going to get, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other business before the Craig Housing Authority? Hearing none, we're done.
I was gonna make the motion, but.
Yeah. We're only an authority.
No, I'll let.
Okay. So we will start regular meeting.
Okay.